Okay, here is part 2 of me creating edible images, but this time not using Cricut Design Space. So here are some images I created for Mother's Day, and we're not going to use them all, but just 3 actual images. So this Love You Mom, which I've already copied and pasted down into this page here. And then we need this, this heart rose combo. So Control C, Control V. I don't know why I plunked it way down there. And then this image of Happy Mother's Day, you were the best, Control C and Control V. All of these images were created in Canva. So what I want to do is I want to copy and paste this, and usually I can fit 4 across on each row. There we go. And I'm going to take this one and use the top one as a guideline for the bottom, or for the next row, excuse me. And same thing with this. So I want to do the same spacing. Okay, and then I'm going to fill up this whole page and duplicate that whole section again. And obviously I'm not going to be able to fit the bottom row on, which is fine. You just take that and backspace it off. But this should, and all I'm going to do is highlight it all just to make sure my margin at the top is not too high. Kind of let it auto center the whole group. And we're going to title this page as Mother's Day Images, and I'm going to put 3 in the background just so that there's 3 different types on this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it, or download, this as not as a PNG, but as a PDF print. And I'm going to do it as the CMK or CMYK, best for professional printing. I found that this comes out a little bit cleaner when I print a regular sheet of paper, not like with use for Cricut Design Space. I'm going to click page 2 that I'm on and download. And once it's downloaded, I will open it up and you'll see that it's going to pop up as a PDF. So open file. And here is the whole sheet. And I'm going to click print. I'm going to change my printer from my regular household printer to my edible printer, which is the Canon TR8600. I'm going to make sure all of it says color. Everything should be one-sided. It's just standard settings, right? And then I'm going to click print. And then I'm going to come over here to my printer, which I already have my icing sheet in the back. Like I said, I always use my rear tray on my printer. Mine always gives me this little weird pop-up. Just tell it to go ahead. And we will see how long it takes to print these images. Shouldn't take too long. These aren't overly complicated. Working pretty quickly tonight. Again, these aren't overly complicated designs, so they do come out pretty quick. And you do want to be careful because the ink towards the bottom clearly is still fresh. But as you can see, we have a nice print. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sheet dry. I am going to print a second sheet, but I will skip ahead for you guys. Okay, so now my sheet is dry, but in order to cut this out, I am going to have to trim a little bit around the edges so my little hole punch can get to it. This is just a craft punch. This is a 1.75 inch punch because my Oreo mold fits about a 1.85, 1.9 inch. So it doesn't quite meet exact edge to edge, but that's what I like personally. So this works just fine for me. So I'm going to go ahead and pop off the back of this. See, it's only ever been used on these edible sheets. And then I'm going to take my scissors that I use here in my cookie room, and I'm going to take the backing off. I'm not going to cut through the backing because I use the backings as backing, like I showed in part 1. And I'm just going to cut down through the middle in between these images, just so it's easier for the hole punch to get to that row of images. Okay, so then I'm going to take my image and my hole punch and slide it in. I'll line it up the best I can. Oh, there we go. Give a little push, and there you go. The reason why I like to do a sheet like this and not do Cricut Design Space, as you can see, I got more images on this than I did in part 1. Design Space part 1 video did show you a slightly larger Oreo size, which was 1.9. I'm just going to go ahead and finish cutting these out, and I will show you what they look like when I'm done. Okay, now all my images are cut, and as you can see, I cut them 2 by 2, and I will just stack them on top of each other like so. This just helps keep the images from sticking to each other because they will naturally start to stick together if you do not keep the paper that they came on, the backing, in between the layers. So I'm just going to package these up, and then I will show you again how I store them. in a perfect 2 1/4 by 2 3/4 inch self-sealing cellophane bag from the Cookie Countess. I like the 2 1/4 because obviously the 2 inch bags will not work. The images will be too wide with the acetate, and obviously depending on your quantity will be too thick to set inside the bag. So the 2 1/4 by 2 3/4 works perfectly for Oreo images. And almost done. Last one. So basically each image has its own backing to protect it from the image underneath. Just take a bag and stick those in. And that is how I do it without Cricut Design Space. This fits my Oreo mold perfectly. Like I said, mine's about a 1.85 inch wide mold, and I bring these to 1.7, and then hole punch with, actually, excuse me, a 1.8 inch, and then I use the 1.75 inch hole punch, and they fit perfectly on my Oreos. If you liked this video or found it helpful, give it a like. If you have questions or comments, leave them below.